The character design of the friend group is of course very anime-esque, and which stylistically reminds me to an extent of Junji Ito's art due to their similar facial expressions at times. It's simplistic, but works well because of this. What really stands out to me is the character designs of the demons. They seem to have been created from a photograph of a real person, which adds to their sense of uncanniness and horror. The music worked very well with an ambient and suspenseful track playing whenever Leone is chasing you, and which fades out once you've escaped him. Apart from this, the gameplay is for the most part alright. You can quickly get the hang of what you're meant to do and how to avoid each monster. Where the game starts to fall off a bit, however, is the puzzles and hit detection. For example, a lot of the puzzles require you to think outside of the box. So far outside of the box that's practically not in your view anymore. This can mean using bits of broken plates on a wall, which is darker than the rest of the walls, revealing a locked door. But wait, it's not done yet. Since it's locked, then you need to go upstairs to the room where you found the fake door, take off the door handle, put it into the hidden door, and start unlocking it, allowing you to progress. It's not impossible to solve the puzzles for yourself, but sometimes I did have to go back and forth from the game and its official wiki to progress. Apart from this, there's also the problem of hit detection. Sometimes you are being chased by Leone and get caught in places which you probably shouldn't have been, like going up a staircase for example, only to be caught by Leone even if it's only slightly on the side of the stairs. This doesn't make the game unplayable of course, but can sometimes be frustrating nevertheless. The game isn't all that scary either, as once the monsters do catch up to you then there's simply a cut to black and followed by a game over screen. Don't get me wrong, having forced jump scares quickly lose their effect too, but throughout the game we are shown cutscenes of the Oni possessing dead bodies, and even at one point eating a corpse before starting to chase you, and therefore helping to amplify the possible horrors you could be faced with when they catch you. But instead it just simply goes to a game over screen. For instance, we could have been shown a short animation of the Oni grabbing you, or something like that, and then the screen cut into black. This would have made the game over scene stand out more and actually be horrific, because you assume the worst. Instead, however, you bump into the Oni, cut to black, and then game over, which at times can feel quite cheap in comparison to these other aforementioned scenes. Because of this, if you are too used to the demon's shenanigans, then they can become quite typical and annoying, and so losing the fear factor entirely, which is a shame because the monsters really do have great designs, which I'm afraid aren't utilised as well as they could be. In fact, at the end of the game, you are shown the Oni running up to your camera with its mouth widened for a jump scare, and which only comes off as goofy since there's no screaming effect being played once this happens. There is ambient music being played, helping to give the scene a sense of disturbingness and horror, but the cherry on top is nowhere to be found, and so making the whole scene feel redundant. The story is pretty alright, nothing out of the ordinary. A group of students come to this haunted mansion because they've heard stories or blah blah blah, you get it. And so you have to try to escape it because it turns out that whoop-de-doo, the monsters that they were warned about do exist. I feel like it does excel in some areas however, such as when the Oni possesses bodies and or when it's seen eating Mika's corpse. All of these scenes can be summed up as disturbing to the core, as you see the Oni turning his head to face you after he's finished eating out Mika, and so another chase begins. This works to great effect as you're shown what could potentially happen to you once you get caught, and so adding to the fear factor. Another great scene is where Takashi ends up hanging himself and is subsequently possessed by the Oni. This scene especially works well at making you shocked, but you see no sign of the Oni, and so I feel with a sense of safety despite this. However, this is stripped away once he walks to leave the room as the noose finally lets loose and Takashi transforms into an Oni and starts to chase you. As mentioned, the scene is done very well as it throws something at you which you didn't expect, and so catches you by surprise. In conclusion, the game's not bad. Sure, the puzzles can be confusing from time to time, and hit detection can be a bit picky sometimes too, but the puzzles can be advanced with a glance on the wiki, and the hit detection can be easily ignored as it doesn't take a considerable amount away from the game. It's a fun experience, and which will have you enticed from beginning to end. Apart from this, I'd recommend watching Aoni the Animation, which is an anime that in a sense is a parody, as it makes fun of the game's tropes and as well as being a comedy anime, so anything is possible. For example, in episode 2, which parodies the trope of Takashi being a nervous wreck throughout the game, and so during the episode they use the energy produced by this to provide power to the mansion. Personally, my favourite episodes of the bunch was follows. Episode 3, Confession, during which Mika is seen throwing anyone out of the mansion who comes in the way of her confessing to Takaru, who in the game is commonly believed to be her boyfriend, and but in typical anime fashion here is only a crush. And episode 4, Aoni's Classy Day, where we quite literally see the demon living a classy day and can immediately get a glance into his life. However, because the show in its entirety is so short, then it does lack on closure. Not that there's an underlying plot or anything, but at the same time the show does basically flash by you and can leave you wanting more. The episodes can be pretty hit or miss, can leave you wanting more from the concepts they present, and of them sometimes becoming entirely predictable once the groundwork is laid out. For example, episode 8, Iron Bars. Apart from this, I can't complain much. The episodes are roughly 3 minutes, and so you can quickly grind through the show's 13 episodes. I would recommend, however, playing the game or watching someone else play the game first, if that's more your cup of tea, because some of the jokes are based on the events of the game and could otherwise go over your head. In conclusion, I would give this show a chance. While it can be pretty hit or miss, it can hit pretty well.